Quincy Wilson may have just changed the entire story in Eugene. For months, Jayden DeLeon had been the one holding the advantage. He had beaten Wilson when the pressure was highest. He had taken the US U20 400-meter title, and he had done it with a performance that forced everyone to look at this rivalry differently. But now, they are back in Eugene. And this time, Wilson isn't chasing DeLeon. He's coming for him. Because in the World Athletics U20 Championships semifinal, Quincy Wilson ran 45.02 seconds, the fastest time of the entire round. It wasn't just a qualification. It was a statement. And suddenly, the rivalry that appeared to be moving in DeLeon's direction has completely opened up again. So how did these two young Americans get here? To understand that, you have to go back to the first time the gap between them became impossible to ignore. It was March. At the New Balance Nationals Indoor 400-meter final, Wilson and DeLeon found themselves side by side with a national title on the line. Wilson was already the name everyone knew. He had Olympic gold. He had the records. He had already built a reputation that most athletes spend an entire career chasing. DeLeon, meanwhile, was still trying to convince the wider track world that he belonged in the same conversation. But on that day, he didn't run like someone intimidated by Wilson's reputation. Wilson took control early. He established himself in front and appeared to have the race under control. Then DeLeon started closing. The gap disappeared in the final stages. And suddenly, a race that looked comfortable became a finish decided by almost nothing. Wilson held on. His time, 45.37. DeLeon, 45.38. 1/100th of a second. That result mattered for more than the national title, because both performances entered the record books as the two fastest indoor 400-meter times ever run by American high school athletes at that point. And more importantly, DeLeon had shown something. He could stay with Quincy Wilson. He could pressure him. And if he got another opportunity, he might not let Wilson escape. At the time, though, Wilson still had every reason to believe he was in control. His resume was almost impossible to match. He had become an Olympic gold medalist at only 16 years old. His 44.10 personal best had already made him one of the fastest high school 400-meter runners in history. He had competed against senior-level athletes while still a teenager. And Hayward Field itself was part of his story. 2 years earlier, at the U.S. Olympic trials on this same track, Wilson had broken the world under-18 record twice in just 3 days. First came 44.66. Then 44.59 in the semifinal, and he eventually finished 6th in the senior final at just 16. So when Wilson lined up against DeLeon, experience and reputation were firmly on his side. But DeLeon didn't need the better resume. He needed one race, and that race came in June. The US U20 Championships returned to Eugene. This time, the stakes were even bigger. The winner would earn the right to represent the United States at the World U20 Championships. Wilson entered the meet with the reputation of the favorite. DeLeon arrived with something different. Confidence. He had already pushed Wilson in March. Now he wanted the championship. In the final, Wilson ran 44.84. For almost any other race, that would have been enough to win. But DeLeon produced a performance of his young career. He crossed the line in 44.52, a championship record. And suddenly, everything changed. DeLeon had not simply finished close to Wilson. He had beaten him by more than 0.3 of a second. He had taken almost a full second off his previous lifetime best in one race. And he had done it on the same Hayward Field track where the World Championship final would eventually take place. That was the moment this stopped being a promising rivalry. It became personal. Because Wilson had the history, DeLeon now had the victory. And victories change the way people look at a rivalry. Suddenly the question wasn't, can DeLeon challenge Wilson? The question was, can Wilson take the title back? And DeLeon wasn't finished. The very next day, he won the 200 meters at Nike Outdoor Nationals in 20.68. That result added another layer to the rivalry. Wilson had the bigger 400-meter resume, but DeLeon was showing that his speed was becoming a serious weapon. The more DeLeon improved, the harder it became to predict their next meeting. Then July arrived. And for Wilson, the timing couldn't have been worse. He returned to the Ed Murphy Classic in Memphis, the same meeting where he had run the famous 44.10 the year before. But this time, he ran 45.53. That was a very different Wilson. And with the World U20 Championships approaching, the result raised an uncomfortable question. Had DeLeon caught him at exactly the wrong time. Wilson arrived in Oregon carrying something he isn't used to carrying. Doubt. But championships have a strange way of changing everything. And the first round in Eugene didn't provide many answers. DeLeon ran 45.63. Wilson ran 45.74. Both advanced. Both looked controlled. Neither athlete showed everything. And that was important. Because the real test wasn't the first round. It was the semifinals. That was where the pressure became real. DeLeon entered his semifinal knowing that every runner was fighting for one of the limited spots in the final. He handled the race. He advanced. Other contenders began revealing their strength too. And then came Wilson. This was the moment where the entire story could have gone in one of two directions. Either the June defeat had changed him, or it had motivated him. The gun went off. Wilson reacted quickly. He attacked the race from the start and began creating separation. Instead of looking like the athlete who had struggled in July, he looked like the Quincy Wilson everyone remembered. Powerful, aggressive, controlled. And when he crossed the finish line, the clock told the story. 45.02. Fastest semifinal performance of the entire championship. That number matters. Not because it was a personal best. It wasn't. It matters because of what it represented. Wilson had just answered the biggest question surrounding him. Was he still capable of producing his best running when the pressure arrived? The semifinal said yes. And now the rivalry has entered its most interesting stage yet. Because DeLeon still has the biggest recent victory. He beat Wilson 44.52 to 44.84. That can't be erased. Wilson still owns the faster lifetime best. 44.10. That can't be erased either. And now Wilson has another piece of evidence on his side. He has just run the fastest semifinal. So when they step onto the track for the world final, neither athlete can claim psychological control. DeLeon knows he can beat Wilson. Wilson knows DeLeon can beat him. But Wilson also knows exactly what it takes to run away from the field. And there's another problem waiting for both of them. South Africa's Lender Kokemoa has looked dangerous throughout this championship. That means this isn't automatically a two-man race. A third athlete could completely destroy the script. And that might actually make the final even more exciting. Because Wilson and DeLeon have spent months building this rivalry. They've traded victories. They've pushed each other to faster times. They've turned a small gap into one of the most intriguing stories in American junior sprinting. But championships don't care about the past. When the gun goes off, none of the records matter. The Olympic gold doesn't matter. The June championship doesn't matter. The March finish doesn't matter. Only the next 400 meters matter. And that's what makes this final so dangerous. DeLeon has already shown he can handle Wilson when the stakes are highest. Wilson has now shown that he can respond after losing. One athlete is trying to defend his new position. The other is trying to reclaim it. And somewhere between those two goals is the biggest question of the entire race. Who has improved the most since June? Because 3 months ago, DeLeon walked away from this track as the US U20 champion. Wilson walked away wondering what had changed. Now they are back. And the difference is that Wilson no longer has to prove he belongs in this fight. He already has. His semifinal performance made that clear. The question is whether he can finish what he started. If DeLeon wins again, the rivalry takes another massive step forward. It would prove that June wasn't a one-time upset. It would mean DeLeon has genuinely become Wilson's biggest threat. But if Wilson wins, the entire story changes again. Because he wouldn't just be winning a world title. He would be answering the loss that started this entire conversation. March gave us the warning. June gave us the upset. July gave us the doubt. And the semifinal gave us the response. Now comes the part nobody can predict. The final. 2 American teenagers. 1 world championship. 1 rivalry. And only 400 meters separating them from the answer. Jayden DeLeon already took the crown once. Quincy Wilson has just flipped the script. Now there's only one thing left to find out. Who gets the final word?